What's your I couldn't save them story? I was a camp counselor when my 8-year-old camper drowned in the lake while I was breaking up a fight between two other kids 20 feet away. I was working at Camp Wildwood during the summer after my freshman year of college. It was my first real job with serious responsibility, and I took it seriously. I knew every safety protocol, had my lifeguard certification, and genuinely cared about the kids. Tommy was in my group of 10 campers, ages 7 to 9. He was the quiet kid who always stayed close to me during activities. His parents had signed him up for camp hoping he'd make friends, but he was painfully shy and preferred to watch other kids play rather than join in. Tommy had been coming to camp for 3 weeks by then, and we'd developed a routine. During swimming time, he'd hold onto my hand while we walked into the water together. He'd gained confidence over the weeks and was just starting to put his face underwater without panicking. That Tuesday was perfect swimming weather. Clear skies, calm water, all the kids excited to get in the lake. I did my usual head count before we entered the water, making sure all 10 kids were accounted for. Tommy waded in slowly like always, staying in the shallow area where he could touch the bottom. He wasn't a strong swimmer, but he loved being in the water, and I always kept him within arm's reach. About 15 minutes into free swim time, two of my older campers started arguing over a pool noodle. The argument quickly escalated into pushing and shoving, and I could see it was about to turn into a real fight. I looked back at Tommy. He was standing in knee-deep water about 20 feet away, well within the safe zone. "Stay right there, buddy," I called to him. "I'll be right back." It took me maybe 90 seconds to separate the fighting kids and get them calmed down. When I turned back around, Tommy wasn't where I'd left him. I scanned the shallow area, thinking he'd moved closer to shore. Then I saw the ripples in the water about 30 feet out, in the deeper section where the bottom drops off. I dove in immediately and found him 6 feet underwater, unconscious. I pulled him to shore and started CPR while other counselors called 911 and cleared the area. I worked on him for 8 minutes until the paramedics arrived. They continued CPR for another 20 minutes, but it was too late. Tommy had been underwater too long. The investigation showed that Tommy had tried to retrieve a diving toy that had sunk into the deep water. He'd gone under and couldn't make it back to the surface. The toy was a small rubber shark that one of the older kids had thrown too far. The worst part was that if I'd been watching, I could have reached him in seconds. If I hadn't turned away to deal with the fight, Tommy would still be alive. His parents were gracious during the worst conversation of my life. His mother hugged me and said, "We know you loved him and did everything you could." His father shook my hand and said, "Thank you for trying to save our boy." But their kindness made it worse, not better. I quit working with kids after that summer. I couldn't trust myself with that kind of responsibility again. 20 years later, I still have nightmares about those 90 seconds when I looked away. People tell me it wasn't my fault, that accidents happen, that I couldn't have known. But when you're responsible for keeping someone safe and they die on your watch, fault doesn't really matter. I think about Tommy every time I see a lake. I wonder what kind of person he would have become, what he'd be doing now at 28. I'll never stop wishing I'd made a different choice in those 90 seconds. Sometimes being responsible for someone means living with the weight of not being able to save them, even when everyone tells you it wasn't your fault.